All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brad Gottschall. I am your Lower Paxton Township Manager. In typical fashion, I'm going to give a brief summary of this evening's agenda, particularly for the benefit of those who may be watching at home on television as the board takes their seat. This evening is, of course, a special session of the board. They have a number of action items placed on the agenda to include first under new business, the action to appoint a vacancy on the Board of Supervisors, following then by several action items related to the reorganization of the Board of Supervisors, following finally action to award a permanent disability pension to Officer Benjamin Jones within the Police Department, and then finally the lasting announcements of anything the board has on their mind, and then following finally the motion to adjourn. And with all that said, members of the board are seated and prepared to conduct business. Thank you very much.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Business is public comment. Can't hear you. Turn your mic on. The next order of business is public comment. As always with public comment, we invite anyone to speak on any matter not on the agenda this evening, anything that's on your mind. If you have something you'd like to say, please come to the microphone, give us your name and address, and tell us what it is you'd like to discuss.
My name is Luis Villegas. I live at 124 Weston Drive. I'm just bringing a thing that just happened in the neighborhood. It started as soon as the township lined the parking spots along Fairmont, and they lined it all the way to the intersection. It can be because when you're coming out of Western Drive, when you're coming out of any of those roads, you try to look to the right, to the left, you can do it. Because cars are parked all the way to the stop sign. That's not right. It should be at least 15 feet back. I think they made a mistake doing it, because in the traffic specs, you have to stay back from the intersections. That way people can see. So I'm afraid somebody's going to have an accident. They can sue the township. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Manager, do we know what this is about? We know this area? Villegas, will you give us the address and stuff, so a little bit more information?
The whole main drag is called Fairmont. You can go Fairmont right from the Botec all the way down. They just lined that up about probably 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. You can see both sides.
So essentially, there's no sight distance.
There is no side distance
Okay.
whatsoever. You have to pull right into the traffic in order to turn right or left.
And Brad, that would be the township?
I'm not sure what he's referring to, but we'll certainly
look
take a
into it.
look at that, what happened, and for sure. But I'm not aware of the project, so we'll take a look. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to comments from the board members. Members of the board, we have comments to make? Okay, seeing none. New business, action to appoint vacancy on the Board of Supervisors. Chair calls on Supervisor Kurtz for a nomination.
Thank you. Supervisor McCormick. As I have previously mentioned, I think that our procedures for filling vacancies is inadequate at best. And in the future, I call for more public transparency into our process. And I've asked our solicitor to adopt policies and procedures so that the public can see what we see in terms of the submissions from applicants. With that being said, I came in today with a number of individuals that I think would be appropriate to serve as a supervisor. There are over 25 candidates that have submitted materials for this vacancy. They are esteemed members of our community, public servants already, firefighters, retired state troopers, community activists, and this was a really hard decision. I had 4 candidates. One has decided not to run in the fall election. One removed themselves from consideration, and one is not registered to vote in the township. My nominee is Jill Vecchio. I'd like to make a motion for her consideration by the board to fill the vacancy. She is a lawyer, a teacher, very involved in the community. She is a person who teaches ethics, and I think that's what this board needs. So that is my motion, Supervisor McCormick.
Do we have a second? Do you have a second for Ms. Vecchio?
Excuse me, sir, is there an opportunity for public comment before you decide?
Okay. If you'd like to make a public comment, Mr. Lindsay, you're one of the applicants for this position. We'd certainly love to hear from you.
I'd like to make one moment, sorry. I think you have to get a second and then open for discussion.
Okay. We have a second?
Before I second, I also want to say that, this was a very hard decision. I spoke to a lot of people that are here in this room, a lot of qualified people that I think would do great. I had my list of people, and all I want to say is thank you all for your interest. I think you are very capable, and I appreciate your time and your effort to help this community. But I also second Jill Vecchio.
Okay. Now am I allowed to take comments? Thank you, Solicitor Madden. Now is an appropriate time to make comments. Only comments on this particular nomination?
That's correct.
Okay.
My name is Stephen Blaine. I live at 5732 Kenwood Avenue. In regards to the process, and I understand what you're saying, Mrs. Kurtz, and we've discussed that. However, I was fortunate enough to attend the Republican committee meeting last Thursday. And at that committee meeting, I think Mr. Hamilton here, he left this slip that there was / review board that had possibly 3 candidates. And at that committee meeting, Ms. Vecchio got a chance to speak to the committee and say why she wanted to be a supervisor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Blaine. I'm not sure why you're telling us what the Republican committee is doing.
Can I speak here, sir? Just let me. I
Depends.
appreciate you.
It depends. It has to be on topic. That's
Okay,
all.
it's on topic. She got to speak why she wanted to be a supervisor at the committee meeting, and with this review board that is happening, and you were there, Mr. McCormick, you know the truth.
I'm a member of that committee.
You were,
But
and you were there.
What does that have to do with what?
Please
the board
don't
did?
argue. Please don't argue with
I'm
me,
not
okay?
arguing. I'm saying what.
But at the committee meeting,
It has
Mr.
to do with
Vecchio
us.
got to speak. No other candidate got to speak that evening in front of that board. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Mr. Vecchio is now going to be the supervisor, which The process is so non-transparent, okay? You know this review board exists. Mr. Hamilton left a slip that it did.
Know what review board you're talking about,
Oh,
Mr. Blaine?
come on,
But
Mr. McCormick, you were there. You were compromised as much as anybody else.
I'm a member of that committee. Yes, I was
Yes,
at
you
that
were there.
meeting. Yeah, I'm
You
not-
were there.
I'm not denying
John,
it.
you were there, okay? And you heard what happened. You saw what happened. You're a new
What
supervisor.
does the Republican committee have to do with anything
But
that
again,
the Board of Supervisors
did anybody
does?
else get to
They're two
speak at
different
that committee?
organizations.
No,
But
not one of
I'm
them.
I don't control that. None of us control the
Okay.
Republican meeting.
But it's funny how all of a sudden she's the nominee. Thank you.
My name is Joe Lindsay, 6244 Overview Lane. And Mr. McCormick, if you're looking to be chairman, you better conduct yourself as a chairman. Yes, conduct it. You don't laugh at someone during public comment. I'm also here to discuss the process. I'd like to know who gives applications to a review committee comprised of leadership in the Lower Paxton Republican Committee. The reason I ask that is I have a copy here of the ordinance that explains the vacancy process, and I will read it slowly so everybody understands it. When a vacancy exists on any board, committee, or commission, the chairman of that body shall notify the township manager, who shall solicit applications for the vacancy, if necessary, and forward the same to the Board of Supervisors. There is nothing in the ordinance, which was adopted by a previous board, I don't know when it was, that says anything about involvement of a review board by any political party. It's the job of the elected Board of Supervisors, with a majority of 3, to make that decision. And it's my opinion, we have members that are not elected officials that are looking at these applications and should not be looking, and they are part of a review committee, and they're making the call. And what we're getting are appointees who can be controlled. I never got called to be interviewed by the review committee because they know I can't be controlled. I'm here to serve the people, not be served by the people. I just think it's appalling that this, and I agree with you, Mrs. Kurtz, it's appalling, the process that has happened here. And this is nothing against the candidates. I want to express that. But every candidate who has been appointed has either been on the Lower Paxton Republican Committee or have a spouse who is on the Republican Committee. Out of a township of 55,000 people, we hone it into a pool this size. The same thing, just so everybody understands who's watching this, applies to our planning commission. This is how corrupt the process is. We have an 8-member planning commission. 7 members are members of the Lower Paxton Republican Committee. And the committee review are all Republicans. Past members of the Board of Supervisors, the chairman of the Republican Committee, and the chairman of the Vacancy Board. And they know who they are. I'm not going to name them. They know who they are. And I don't want to hear it's not true. It is true, and I've spoken to a few of the members of the Board of Supervisors, and they're hearing the same story from others.
Mr. Lindsay, you have 5 minutes. Please wrap it up.
5 more minutes?
5 minutes from beginning to end.
Okay. Oh, it might take you a couple more minutes for this to sink in. The bottom line is this, ladies and gentlemen. I, as a citizen, expect 5 independent members of this board. I don't expect you to have anybody telling you what to do. Because I'm telling you, these people are corrupt, and if you cross them, there will be hell to pay. And last but not least, Mr. McCormick, on a personal note, I'm the one causing the problems for you and your committee and your campaign, not my wife. So if you want to criticize someone, you criticize me, not my wife, because I have a mission, and that is to make sure you don't get elected to this on a full-time basis, because you're not worthy of any public office. Thank you.
I think I need to take a moment to cover many of the things you just covered, Mr. Lindsay. I'm not sure how many people in the public actually understand how this process works.
It was just, Mr. Lindsay just read the code section, so he made it very clear, based on the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Second-Class Township Code, how the process is supposed to work. The last time I saw the process work correctly was in December, when we filled the vacancy of Norm Zumas with you, Mr. McCormick. Mrs. Lindsay talked to each and every current board member individually, so that we did not have a quorum, to find out what the particular supervisor was thinking in terms of who to vote for. Then she got her information from the various supervisors, and we came together and we elected you, we appointed you to the board. That's the last time that the process outlined in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Second-Class Township Code worked without having the Lower Paxton Township Republican Committee insert themselves in the process. As I have already said on record. One other thing that I want to say. On the night that Lyle Gaines spoke, you all allowed the man to go on and on and on and on, way over 5 minutes. So I'm not sure why we're trying to limit people tonight to just 5 minutes. When Mr. Gaines, when he was speaking on behalf of Mr. Gottschall, was able to just go on and on and on. I believe that the man spoke for over 20 minutes. So I'm not so interested in having the public comment limited tonight. It wasn't limited for Mr. Gaines, so I felt like, okay, going forward, we must be allowing people to speak until they're done.
Public comment has always been limited to 5 minutes.
It wasn't for Mr. Gaines, not on that night at all. No one tried to stop him.
I was not chairman that night. I can't speak to what happened prior under another chair. I'm trying to do the best that I can. Now, what I need to explain to everybody is this. No special committee, and I don't know what special committee anybody's talking about, chose the candidates. I don't know how Supervisor Thompson interviewed people, but I know Supervisor Kurtz and Supervisor Jean and I each had our own way of interacting with each of these candidates. As a matter of fact, Mr. Lindsay, I interviewed you, and I spoke for probably 40 minutes the last Thursday night.
You spoke for 40 minutes.
No, you were very clear to tell me, be quiet, I'm speaking. And I thought that's what I was supposed to do during an interview, was ask questions, but obviously we disagreed. So what I want to point out to people is this. The Lower Paxton Township Republican Committee exists. I freely admit that I'm a member of that committee. I don't believe Mr. Najin is.
I was at
you were at the meeting, but you're not a member of that committee, right?
Correct.
You have no brother or sister or aunt or uncle or husband or wife that is a member of that committee, right?
Correct.
Okay. The point I'm trying to make is this. Supervisor Kurtz and Supervisor McCormick will appear on the ballot on the Republican side because the resignations that were turned in a timely way that we were able to get nominating petitions signed and our names appear in the ballot. However, we have 2 other resignations that occurred after the deadline to get the names on the ballot. Now, what happens when there are ballot positions that needs to be filled and there's no opportunity to do a nominating petition? It then falls to the political parties in the political subdivision to add names to the ballot. And the Democratic Party in Lower Paxton Township will provide 2 names for the 4-year term and for the 2-year term. And the Republican Party in Lower Paxton Township will provide names to be on the ballot in November for the 4-year term and the 2-year term. This is not something the Board of Supervisors decides. It's not even in the second-class code. It is the law of the land, however. We don't control that. Now, if someone says that the Republican Party is interviewing candidates, that's what they do. I assume somewhere there's a Democratic Party that's interviewing candidates as well. That's their job. That's what they do. 2 names must be placed on the ballot. Those political parties will provide the name to the Bureau of Elections, who will put those names on the ballot, not the Board of Supervisors. What the Board of Supervisors does is appoint from the applicants we receive to the vacancy. Now, in my understanding, Solicitor Madden, please correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a process, and you mentioned it earlier, where we accept applications. But according to the law, we can appoint anybody we want. Now, we followed the process that we have in place. Now, you can criticize that process, but know that not a single person who's sitting up here now developed that process. And to Supervisor Kurtz's credit, she's increasingly adamant that we change the policy to one that is much more transparent. I believe that's appropriate, and I support her in what she, I don't think there's anybody on this board that disagrees with having a process, a new process for selecting recently resigned people. By the way, this is exacerbated by the fact that we had 4 resignations in a relatively short period of time. That is not common. That doesn't happen very often. But whatever the Republican, and 2 people said that the Republican Party was telling the Board of Supervisors what to do, and I can tell you without question that is false.
Excuse me, because you've stated something that's incorrect. We did not get information from the Dauphin County Bureau of Voter Registration and Election Director Chris Spackman to start talking to candidates to put on the November ballot until about 3 weeks ago. So Mr. Najim wasn't part of that process, nor was Ms. Kurtz part of that process.
Ms. Kurtz got a petition signed, a nominating petition, and lawfully and regularly.
We are talking about 2 separate things. She is on the primary ballot. So any information, any impression that you're trying to give the public that the Republican committee has to interview people so that they can have people on the ballot for November is incorrect.
Supervisor
we only
Thompson,
got it 3 weeks
what you just said
ago.
is incorrect. They're not limited by time as to when they interview people. They can start interviews anytime they want. Just because the Bureau of Elections contacted them and said, oh, by the way, we're looking for those names, doesn't mean that they can't.
As far as
their
I know,
charter
they
allows
are,
them to do what they want to do.
We didn't know. So yes, they
No,
are
it's
limited
the law. Yes, everybody knows that.
Can we
My
please
name's John
continue
Packer.
public comment?
Thank you.
5723
John, it's nice to
Kenwood
meet you.
Avenue.
We had a wonderful conversation.
Right. So I've spoken to all 4 of you because my name has been in for the last 2 appointments. So you've eloquently laid out how that happened. You're missing one large fact.
Okay.
That the gentleman sitting here behind me who wants to get up and speak next,
Okay.
I'm sure he will, He didn't say they were turning it in for the November ballot. They said they were giving 3 names to you. I'm sure the 3 of you, not Ms. Thompson. So that's one important fact that you're missing. And again, John was there, you were there. And if you say different.
Mr. Packer, I don't control what they say.
Well, I get that, but what we have the problem here is, my turn. The allegations that have been thrown out there that this is the good old boys club, that there's stuff going on in the background, that, you know, somebody's pulling the puppet strings. Well, perception becomes reality, okay? And the perception is, and myself and Mr. Blaine got to witness it firsthand, is that some of these guys sit here and right back there, they're the ones pulling the strings. They're the puppet masters. And whether you want to admit it or not, that's how it looks. And that's how it looks to a lot of other people sitting here and a lot of other people sitting at home. And I don't know how you're going to get over it, around it, or whatever, but if you continue down this path, it's going to hurt you in the election coming up.
Well, here.
So you can give your opinion. That's mine for this point. I reserve any other time that I have for any other further comments, depending on some of the comments you may make.
Thank you, Mr. Packer. Look, I walked into this job anticipating that I would be working with 4 elected supervisors. I never anticipated that these circumstances would arise. I, along with my colleagues, are doing the very best job we can do given the circumstances that we're faced with. Now, if you tell me that I'm taking orders from the Lower Paxton Township Republican Committee, I will deny that absolutely. Now, obviously, I don't disagree, based on some of the things you've said, that it may look that way, but I can assure you, I do not take direction from anyone. I make up my own mind. There were people who were in my I actually had a top 5. And by the way, you were among that top 5, Mr. Packer. One of the 5 was somebody who doesn't live in the township or doesn't vote in the township. I wasn't able to continue to support that name, but you were one of the final 4 that I talked about as being people that I would support. So were you one of the people that the Republican Party put forth? Because I don't know if they did, but they didn't tell me that. So you were one of my top 4 at the end of the day when we did we never colluded, we never had a conversation where 3 supervisors talked about who we were going to vote for. So Solicitor Madden was clear, we're not allowed to do that, and we held to that.
Okay, let me answer your question, because you asked me a question, so I'm going to answer it. No, I was not contacted by any of them, okay? But Ms. DeVecchio, why was she? Why would, and if she wasn't contacted by them, why would she take it upon herself to reach out to them? Why?
I don't know that answer.
Well, it goes back to
It's not my board.
What Mr. Lindsay asked is, how are they even getting these applications? They're supposed to go to Mr. Gottschall and then to you, and that's it. So who's distributing them anywhere else? Is anybody else here that put in for this, that was contacted by the committee? There we go. Here's one. Maybe he needs to speak to that.
My name is Everett Hamilton, 4419 St. Andrews Way. Just do a little clarification for the appointments. When a supervisor resigns, and we've had 4 of them, all of them with more than 60 days before the general election, as a normal process, when the public votes a Republican supervisor, they resign or are deceased, they're replaced by a Republican. That's customary. What we do as far as the Lower Paxton Township's Republican Party is, people send us Republicans, not Democrats. I don't have any Democrats, resumes, Republican resumes. We look at them, discuss how we're going to do it. If we decide to endorse that person, we will help them financially in the election. I have to add one other thing. These appointments, all 3 of them sitting there, they were all picked for their qualifications. Anyone wants to challenge their qualifications, be my guest. But they were appointed because of that reason. All three of them are up for election in November. They are only appointed to fill the position until the first Monday in January of 2026. This is not a permanent position. The public will have the right to appoint who they want or elect who they want come November. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Charles Stewart, 1440 Karen Drive. Did I just hear this gentleman say that it's customary when a Republican comes off to reappoint a Republican? You got to think about that.
You didn't hear anybody on this board say that, Mr. Stewart. I'm just wondering.
I'm not saying you did. I'm saying we just heard that. So that is a system that we're dealing with. And Ms. Kurtz she's on board on getting this policy, getting new policies. John, he's on board getting these new policies. But I can't believe that I just sat here and heard that saying what we're all assuming that's happening anyway. He just confirmed the assumption.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Please explain.
This gentleman said it's customary
You mean
when a Republican, this gentleman just stated it's customary to replace a Republican with the Republican. Am I correct? Am I wrong? Yes, sir, you heard right. I mean, that's what he said. So therefore, I'll give you a chance, Mr. McCormick. So therefore, that is the assumption we all assume that's just been confirmed. So you got to say something about that. You got to say.
All right, Mr. Stewart, when I interviewed
Dr. Stewart.
Dr. Stewart, I apologize.
That's okay.
Dr. Stewart, when I interviewed you, did I ask you if you were a Republican or a Democrat?
No, you did not.
No, and I didn't ask any candidate. And when one of the applicants started to tell me, I said, I don't want to know, okay? Now, I can't prove that to you. Maybe some of the people I spoke to will tell you that I told them that whenever I interviewed them. And maybe I'm not elected in November because maybe Mr. Lindsay's got a lot of friends and they vote me out, and that's okay. What I will tell you is that while I'm here, I have 55,000 bosses. I'll do the best job that I can. You may not like the job that I'm doing, but I can't be held to the standard of what someone in the audience says.
Mr. McCormick, I'm not asking you that. Excuse me, because I'm not a rude person. I don't really yell. I'm pretty patient, but
yes, sir.
You're not listening to me. I'm not blaming you. I'm not accusing you. You didn't say it. This gentleman said it. Now, who is he to say that? Is he on your Republican Party, or is he part of your Republican Party, or is he has say-so on who's going to be on this supervisory board, or what? I'm not saying you.
He has no say-so
well,
about who's going to be on the supervisory board.
You need to tell him that.
Mr. Hamilton, you have no say-so as who goes on the.
And then you need to change it.
Pardon me?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McCormick.
The only say-so I have is making a recommendation to the supervisors on who the Republican Party would like to see appointed. That's just simple as that. All three, or all four supervisors that are being replaced or voted in by the public were all Republicans. That's the reason I made this statement as customary, and this goes from the U.S. Senator to House of Representatives, all the way down the line. That is a custom that has been followed for centuries.
But we've not committed to that customary process. None of us have. And, the one other thing I want to emphasize, Mr. Hamilton, is your responsibility, or at least your committee's responsibility, you, just like the Democratic Committee has the same wherewithal, is to place the names in the ballot for the 4-year term and the 2-year term. It matters not who we appoint as far as that ballot goes.
But that's not what he just said. He just said he gave you recommendations to appoint. He said nothing about putting names forward for the general election. So you've got a big problem here with two different entities that are playing around here. And now, unfortunately, he got up, and you are the chairman of the Republican committee, am I correct? So he's the guy in charge. And he just got up here and said it's customary, which the good doctor reminded us of. And now he said he gave you names to appoint. So, Mrs. Kurtz, let me ask you, did you get 3 names from either him or another member of the committee to consider?
I did not, and I will tell you that when I first saw Jill Vecchio's resume, she submitted it for Chris Judd's resignation. I asked the other supervisors whether or not they would support her, whether we thought the Republican committee would support her. The answer was no. This was my candidate. If they are now on board, wonderful.
Mr. McCormick, did you receive names?
I will tell you specifically that members of the committee told me that they would not consider putting Mrs. Vecchio's name on the ballot. They told me specifically, a couple members told me that. But see, it doesn't matter what they say. It matters what we do. Anybody can say anything, Mr. Packer.
I get that.
Yes, I get it. We need to avoid the appearance of impropriety as well as the actual impropriety.
Let me tell you, it just got worse.
Supervisor John, I need to apologize for earlier. I did not mean to include you in that comment about everybody that's been appointed has been associated with the Republican Party, and I hope that you would accept my apologies. All right?
Thank you, Joe.
However, I don't understand what is so hard about what was just said. It violates our own ordinance. It says nothing about a political party getting involved in appointments to fill a vacancy on a board. When a vacancy exists on any board, committee, or commission, the chairman of that body shall notify the township manager, who shall solicit applications for the vacancy if necessary and forward the same to the Board of Supervisors. Those applications should go to you 5 up here, well, 4, but eventually 5 of you, from the manager, not through a political entity. That's what it is.
And-
Mr.
and
McCormick,
that's
you ought to
what-
sell
that's what
used cars, because that's what I'm getting from you tonight. This is very, very
attacking me.
simple.
You keep attacking me, Mr. Lindsay.
Well,
and I
that's
have-
because you are a knucklehead. This is very, very simple. The application should never go to a political party. They should go to you, the Board of Supervisors.
And they did. And we did make an independent decision.
But they're going to a political party. I don't care if you made an independent decision or not. You, as a Board of Supervisors, oversee the ordinance. You should make sure that it is obeyed.
And that's what we're doing.
No, it's not. It
Just because-
continues.
It doesn't matter what he says. It matters what we do.
You're wrong. You're wrong, because he said he did it. So that means you're accepting names in violation of this ordinance from a political entity.
That's simply not true.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next step in this agenda, after you're done voting, is to appoint a chairman. Please don't appoint this gentleman, because he's not a leader and he's stupid.
You know what they say about opinions, Joe?
And you're one.
I just want to make one statement. I think there's a confusion between an endorsement, which the Republican Party endorses candidates that want to be on the supervisor's board. We do not appoint. We make suggestions. After we endorse, it's handed over to the committee of supervisors. They make the decision. The Republican Party doesn't make the decision.
Other public comment?
Robin Lindsay, 6244 Overview Lane. When Mr. Judd resigned, a couple weeks after that, you did advertise for his position. And I wouldn't know the gentleman if he was sitting here, because I do not know him. I don't know how old he is. I don't know where he lives, what he looks like. But he called me on a Monday morning, and he said to me, I was interviewed by the review committee of the Lower Paxton Republican Party. I got a call this morning, and I was not the one that is going to be appointed to fill Mr. Judd's seat. And he also told me that he was told if he would get the appointment, that he would have to come up with $20,000. So there is a review committee. I also got a call yesterday while I was out of state that someone met with the review committee, and they were called yesterday, and they also were not appointed to the position. So whether you know it or not, there is a review committee. And like I said, the gentleman that called me 6 weeks ago, I don't know him. I have no clue who he is. My phone number is out there, and I don't care. I always answer it because you never know if it was a resident that needed any help, and I'm still doing that because I'm still helping residents behind the scene on what they need to do if they have issues, or, and what they need to do to contact the directors here at the township. So I'm telling you, both of these gentlemen got interviewed by the review committee, and like I said, the one 6 weeks ago, I have no clue what he looks like, how old he is. I wouldn't even know him. He could be sitting in this room as of tonight, and I do not know that.
Mrs. Lindsay, I'm sorry, but I don't know how we can act on that, because you don't know who the review committee is, and you don't know who the people are that I know this.
Did forward the names. He told me who the names were, but I'm not disclosing them tonight.
I can assure you that no one on the Board of Supervisors asked anybody for money for an appointment to the board. I understand that. I understand that.
I did not say that. I said the review committee of the Lower Paxton Republican Committee
I just didn't
asked him for that he would need, if he got appointed to fill Mr. Judd's position, that he would have to come up with $20,000.
Again, I don't know who this review committee is. I don't know if they've done what you've said. Perhaps they have. Beyond my knowledge, I know that I can't control that. I am a member of that committee. You can look it up. I'm proudly Republican for a long, long time. And Robin used to be a member of that committee as well.
A long time, but I got screwed every time.
But the point is that there's nothing nefarious to be a member of that committee. And all I'm saying is that, when people make accusations, they should be precise about what they're making accusations of. If they're making accusations that the Republican Party in Lower Paxton Township is interviewing people, that's fine.
Both of these gentlemen got interviewed by the review committee.
Okay, I don't know who the review committee is, and no review committee gave me names. I can't speak to anything else.
Being a former Lower Paxton police officer, which I'm very, very proud of, if you got an anonymous complaint, you just didn't say, we throw it in the garbage can. You investigate it. There's a lot of cases in criminal law where there are anonymous complaints and they turn into good leads and a suspect is found and they are prosecuted. This is what you should do. Instead of coming up with a bunch of excuses, you ought to be, you ought to be.
Joe, I'm not the police.
Excuse me, I'm just making an analogy. All of you giving us is excuses. You should be so ticked off that you have to sit here and listen to this every meeting. Well, then do something about it. That's all we ask you to do. Do something about it.
We are trying.
Well, you sat on that review committee Friday morning.
I had breakfast with some friends on Friday morning, but I don't know anything about a review committee. As a matter of fact, I had breakfast with friends on other days too, and I had coffee and donuts.
You're better off just being quiet.
Right, right.
And move on. You're just burying yourself.
Is there any other public comment?
I'd like to make a comment, Supervisor McCormick. Our process is broken. It is. We need to do better. We will work on a policy. It's not going to help for this situation. But I promise you that I will make this my top priority, and we'll do what we can to get something in front of the board for their consideration, because this is, in my mind, unacceptable. This just highlights the importance that everyone needs to go vote. Please vote on May 20th in the primary. Please vote in the general in November. And try to vote for the best candidate. We're talking a lot about partisan politics. I struggle sometimes with my political affiliation. You care about your trash getting picked up. You care about potholes getting fixed. These are not partisan issues. Go vote for the best candidate that you think listens to you, and we'll try to change for the better. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Excuse me, I would like to go on the record now and say that the process worked fine in December when we appointed Alan McCormick to the board. We worked according to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania second-class township code. We followed that process. I am not inclined to tweak the process that is outlined in the code because it worked fine. What happened was an organization interfered in the process. An organization was allowed to interfere in the process, and Mrs. Kurtz, you benefited from that interference. So I find it very specious for you to say, okay, now that I'm on the board, now I want to change the process. As outlined in the code, it works fine. If we had followed that process, had not let the applications get out to another body, we would have been fine because we had been fined previously.
I don't want to change it. I want to make it more transparent. That's my goal. The same thing that we're doing now, let's just let the people see what we're seeing, and let's have public interviews at a meeting.
Mrs. Thompson, Mrs. Thompson and Mrs. Kurtz, I want to thank you for showing some professionalism in your comments. It's been missing all night long coming from the dais. I thank you both.
So you mentioned this previously. The problem with doing the interviews publicly is that belongs to a home rule jurisdiction. We are not a home rule jurisdiction. We are a second-class township. Carlisle is a home rule jurisdiction, and they do their interviews publicly, but as we are a second-class township, we go by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Second-Class Township Code, Section 407. That's the ordinance that we follow. It's also on our website. Those guidelines do not indicate that we make our interviews public. I interviewed Mr. McCormick over at BAM. I interviewed a number of people at different places. I interviewed you at the library in the glass box. That was one-on-one with us. So the process worked fine when I interviewed Mr. McCormick following the directions of the second-class township code. I will not support changing from the second-class township to a home rule process.
Can I just, I'm sorry, Solicitor Madden, to put you on the spot. We will follow the second-class township code. I think the policies that we can prescribe can heighten that review for filling a vacancy, but I'll defer to our solicitor. And I agree it did work, but our process is now broken, so.
The second-class township code is relatively bare bones in terms of its prescribed procedure. It gives a lot of breadth to boards of supervisors in how they choose to promulgate rules, policies, et cetera, for the purposes of filling those vacancies. in theory, the way that the code's written, the board could not even solicit applications and simply pick a person out of the crowd and appoint them. And frankly, in very small municipalities, that's typically what happens. But there is nothing in the code that specifically restricts a board, township, borough, whether it be a home rule charter or not, from adopting policies, procedures, guidelines, the same way that they do, for example, monitoring public comment rules and regulations at their meetings.
Counselor, isn't it not true that the ordinance, though, is technically the process in Lower Paxton?
That the ordinance, it demonstrates exactly what I'm saying. The township has the authority to adopt ordinance rules, however it may be.
Okay, thank you.
Is there other public comment? Is there any other public comment?
Darren Spann, 1105 Country Hill Drive. One of the things I'm hearing, and I don't understand, is why did the applications and the resumes go out to a different entity?
I have no idea that they did or did not, Mr. Spann. That accusation has been made, but I can neither verify nor can I confirm it. So it's frustrating.
Let me say this.
It's
I don't wanna get an
frustrating to
argument
try
out.
to prove a
What-
negative.
What I'm asking you, from this point on, when you get applications in, can you keep them at the board level? And
Absolutely.
not give them to anybody else?
When I say absolutely, I'm not agreeing that they went out before. I don't know how the Republican Party got the names. I'm sure the Democratic Party got names too. And maybe they've done interviews somewhere. I don't know. It's not my business.
Alan, it is your business. It is your business, Alan, because I sent an application in, and I sent it in to,
Yes.
wait a minute, I sent it in to
Yes.
Mr. Gottschall, and I would hope that stayed with him. I don't want
Well, he gave it to me.
Listen, I
And
don't
he
want
gave
it
it
to
to the
go.
other supervisors so we
Listen.
could talk to you.
It shouldn't go to the Republican Party. It shouldn't go to the Democratic Party. It should stay here for
I
you
agree with
guys
you.
to make the decision.
Absolutely
And that's
agree with
all
you.
I'm asking.
Absolutely agree with you.
Let me make one last point. The applications.
Mr. Hamilton, we need you to get to the mic, please.
Real quick, why don't you do an investigation as a board? And I'm directing this to Mrs. Kurtz and Ms. Thompson and the other gentleman. Why don't you do an investigation and find out how these applications went around the Board of Supervisors? That's where I think the most logical thing to do is, where did we go wrong as a board in our process, and how do we fix it? Okay? Thank you.
Mr. Lindsay, the way I got the applications, not applications, I got resumes from people who were interested, who are registered Republicans. And talking about asking people for money. Well, first, let me say, Robin Lindsay and I both interviewed Ms. Kurtz before she was selected. And Robin told me she thought she was extremely well qualified. So we've got that on our hands. As far as asking for money, we didn't ask for money. It's the same as if I invest in a company. If the CEO doesn't have enough confidence in the company to invest his own money, I'm not going to buy that company. Same way with the supervisor. If you're running for election, it costs money to run an election. My question to people that came before me was, can you afford some of your own money and your time to run for office? It's just that simple. It takes money to run for election. Thanks.
It's getting everybody up.
I just want to make it clear that I interviewed Laura Kurtz on my own. Mr. Hamilton was not sitting there with me when I interviewed her at the Cafe Fresco on Lingelstown Road.
Jay Purdy, 4731 Duke Street. Just wanted to come up for the record. I'm a Democratic committee member, have been since '95. I didn't get any list of any supervisor candidates to consider before tonight, and I doubt any Democratic committee member did. So don't paint our side as having the defect that possibly the other side has. Thank you very much.
Is there any other public comment? Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion properly made and seconded for the nomination of Jill Vecchio. I'm going to add my editorial comments to this because I'm going to be voting on this. You heard Supervisor Kurtz say when she got the application from Ms. Vecchio that the Republican Party told her that there was no way they were going to endorse her. I received the same kind of feedback from the Republican Party. I didn't ask, but I received the same kind of feedback. But let me tell you what I know about Jill Vecchio. I know she's a long-time resident, 14 or 15 years of the township. She has children. They participate in all the various amenities and activities that are available, the things, the parks, and the things that make Lower Paxton Township the wonderful place it is to live. And I'll tell you something else I learned from interviewing her, and she may or may not want me to say this, but I'm proud of it, and I hope she would be proud of it too. 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago, in her full-time job as an attorney, she educated members of the state legislature on ethics. Now, everyone's throwing all kinds of conspiracy theories and attacks at this board about what we did or didn't do or should do or whatever. And we're not really in a position to defend ourselves. And when we do, you tell us that it's an excuse or whatever. And you tell me I'm a knucklehead. And it may be, I might be a knucklehead, I don't know. But I would say this, one of the adders that I considered in whether or not Jill Vecchio would be in my top 3 or top 4 or top 5 was that because initially when I looked at her resume, I wasn't sure if she was the right person for the job. And I told her this whenever I talked to her last Thursday. I talked to her the same day I talked to you, Mr. Lindsay. And I said, look, you're not among my top 3, but I want to give you a chance. And after a conversation that was about a half an hour, 40 minutes, and I should explain, I called her early in the afternoon. She was unable to talk to me because she was at work, but she called me back after she was done with work, which I thought was another factor in her favor, that she didn't want to do that conversation during work, even though it benefited her. But the thing that really, really impressed me is that, she explained to me some of the criticisms that we've heard about her, and she also said to me that, again, I apologize, I don't remember, it was 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, whatever. One of the things she did was to hold an education session for our elected state representatives, advising them on ethics. I've heard from this crowd, and I've heard from people in the street, you want ethics to be first and foremost in this committee. And we're trying. And I know from some of the things that people have said that it appears that we're missing the mark. And I absolutely am confident you will come out in May and you'll come out in November and you'll either vote for us or not, and that's what we want you to do. But while we're here, we're going to do the best job that we can. And so I will call for the vote for the nomination for Mrs. Vecchio, and I say aye. All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no.
Nay.
Okay, we have 3 votes for Mrs. Vecchio. I don't see her in the audience today. That being the case, we will have to notify her of the vote. And Madam Solicitor, Mr. Manager, I'm looking for guidance. Should we postpone reorganization until the 5th person is duly sworn in?
I would like to make a motion to table the reorganization of the Board of Supervisors.
I second.
Thank you.
We have a motion properly made and seconded to delay to our next meeting, to delay the vote for reorganization to our next meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
You don't need a vote on a table.
Okay.
Just a motion and a second.
Okay.
May I just make a quick note for when you do reorganize? Items 5, 2, 3 through 5, those positions are appointments, not elections. So you have to elect a chair and a vice chair, appoint secretary, treasurer, and then secretary, treasurer.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate that. If we're not going to do reorganization, that eliminates several of the next items on the agenda. Am I correct? That moves us down to action to award, apologize, I don't have my glasses with me, total and permanent
Disability pension to Officer Benjamin Jones effective May 1st, 2025, based on acceptable independent medical examination.
We have been briefed on that previously. I think we all know what the circumstances are. That is a personnel matter, and it was briefed in executive session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We need a motion, I'm sorry. Motion to approve that.
I will make the
Action.
motion to approve action item number 5.3.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion properly made and seconded to move forward. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed say no.
Mr. Chair,
As a former police officer, I'd like to extend to Officer Jones, thank you for your dedicated service. It's greatly, greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
The entire board.
and Mr. Chair, if I may note as well, rather timely for Officer Jones, that he had just celebrated 10 years with the township just a number of days ago on the 20th, so his presence here this evening is a testament to his heroic pursuit while on duty, and as Mr. Lindsay had noted, we all thank you for that service, sir.
Do we have any announcements?
I would just like to remind, I would like to remind everybody that the Kite Festival that was supposed to take place this past Saturday got canceled due to weather, so it's going to be taking place this coming Saturday, May 3rd. Okay, all right.
Having no other business, meeting adjourned.